level contemporary sculptors simultaneously being made. And a lot of these are really good artists. I mean, we're from Tony Craig to Jan Fabre, from Damien Hirst to Jeff Koons to Vanessa Beecroft to Mark Quinn, Adele Emiseba, that you literally have them lined up, and there'll be these teams of Italian craftspeople working on them, and they could have robot milling as part of it. I still utilize the robot milling capability of my friends there in Carrara, Italy. I also have another facility I work with in the U.S. But that's the one element of the whole long, complex, winding path to making one of my works that is done off-site. They don't touch my work. I'm known as the crazy American guy who won't let the famous Italian craftspeople touch his work. I have a team here, and it's also different in terms of number of hours. A large, let's say, human scale monumental piece, I spend up to 10,000 hours of handwork after all of the advanced processes played out. They showed me proudly one of the works in Carrara, and I won't say who it's by. And they said, we spent 500 hours on this. That's kind of their limit when you get a sculpture made, just for budgetary reasons and so on. I mean, this is also the problem for me and my bankroll, is that I'm not willing to call it quits at any one point for budgetary reasons. We just keep going. But that's probably what you saw, is that the robot milling is done off-site. We are in the process of getting our first robot here at the studio. I still hope I'm going to be working with my friends and collaborators in Italy and here in the States. But I built this entire new studio complex over 10 years. It's 20,000 square feet with all of the infrastructure in place to have every aspect of the making of my work all in one facility. And the only thing we're missing right now is a robot. We have a giant custom-made Pellegrini computer-controlled diamond wire saw. We have water filtration system, twin 20-ton bridge cranes, industrial air compressors, all of the stuff you need to back up all of the, kind of high-tech processes. And we're just missing that one element at the moment, but it's going to be here.
That robot's on its way?
Yeah, we're in the process of speccing it out to get it over here. I mean, they're kind of custom made, and it's it'll be here probably within the next year.
Sure.
And when we work with robots off-site, we also are very involved in laying out the tool paths, programming, working side by side with the people who have them. I think my work is the only stone sculpture that has evidence of the robot milling as part of the final product. A pattern of flutes, ridges that I vary and specify. Sometimes it looks like corduroy cloth, for example, in the bed of the sleeping-hermaphodite. Or to me, it kind of recalls this pattern of fluting on Egyptian sculptures in the drapery, etc. I want evidence of the process, and I cultivate that. And we're like writing that tool path and transmitting it to the people with the machine. So, I mean, the next step is to have the machine. I'm not just showing up with a model, which is and saying, hey, get this thing made, and then show up and see the finished product. We're pretty down in the trenches with all aspects.
I mean, there's a tradition there also. I mean, the college I went had this amazing Rodin, and that the backside of it was rough hewn. You could see, you could still see evidence of these. Back in the day, there would be the maquette, and they would take measurements around the maquette and drill into specific depths, and then hack away, which, again, it's all part of this automated process that you're taking advantage of today. It's just, if they had the opportunity to do it 120 years ago, they certainly would have.
Michelangelo he actually developed this water bath immersion technique for measuring and scaling up that is very close to digital technology. The levels of the water are very close to like CAT scan slices through a figure. I mean, these guys would have been all over it. The idea that there's some romantic vision they had of chipping stone by the fireside, that's just some later conceit. They were pushing the envelope for their time. Canova, who developed the pointing up technique, which you're describing, I mean, there's still people doing it. When I go to Italy, I see them moving the frame back and forth with the points and the marks on the plaster model and everything. I'm going, why? Because it's basically halfway to the robot work. And there's nothing fun about it. You're not really utilizing your sculpture skills that much. You're just removing material for months. It's drudge work. Let the machine do that for you. And then, then you can sculpt. The final surface of mine is sculpted. I mean, my team is all people with master's degrees in sculpture, some of them from traditional academies that teach in the old way. And I utilize that fantastic knowledge base in the making of my work. I mean, it's not like we press print and the robot makes the work and we walk away. No, it's just a tool in the process of making it, the final work.
But, it seems like even though their hands are on the objects, it seems like as a sculptor, than the names you were throwing out earlier, you are probably more integrally involved in the process than most of your peers. Having that fabrication in your studio, what do you think?
Yeah, it's... if there was one raison d'etre for building this whole studio, for having this studio in its current form, was to have the material and what I'm doing with it, the forms I want to make, the ideas I want to pursue, interlaced. There's a lot of utilization of white marble to this day, or gray, maybe black granite, when you see a contemporary sculpture, or I hate bronze, but this the black patinaed green or whatever, patinaed bronze, kind of dead materials. They're a bit inert. I mean, Carrara marble is a beautiful stuff, justifiably famous. The entire Italian stone industry started because the Romans found it there, and it's been used for millennia, and it's a gorgeous fine-grained material. But the crazy thing is, the first time I went to Carrara, I saw 30 miles of stacked blocks in a rainbow of colors and different translucencies, veined, pitted, fissured, incredible material stuff, stacked from all over the world. It's the stone shopping center of the world. Iranian translucent pink, Brazilian blue, Bolivian stone, Vietnamese white, Egyptian, Portuguese, Southern French. I mean, it's that people haven't really used that to great expressive effect. It was kind of shocking to me. I'm going, how can you drive by all this stuff and head for the white every time?
Sure.
And I remember I'm walking to the Uffizi, and I'm looking down that long hallway that we all look at before we charge in and see the Giotto and the Duccio and the Cimabue and start our tour and end up with the Botticellis. There's this endless Vasari hallway down there with white twisting forms. And I didn't want to add one more to that pile. I just felt like come on, let's utilize the incredible possibilities inherent in what the earth produces. And it brings me to a more basic question. Sorry if I'm rambling on here about. I'm not a reflexive stone sculpture maker. Again, coming out of minimalism, examining everything. I mean, I want to understand why I'm utilizing this material. It's not just like in the tradition as a way to make a permanent work of art. And, isn't it a miracle that you could carve that thing out of a stone, which I get all the time, I mean, we all go to see David in the Accademia in Florence, and we go, he made it out of a rock. Oh, my God, he could never make a mistake. And what if he, the whole mysticization of stone is part of what, still is there, even with advanced crazy forms of a contemporary artist. I just felt like there was this whole other world I could bring to it. They talk about the translucency of Carrara marble. My God, it's not even translucent at all compared to the onyxes in the world, which to me can dematerialize this very stony stuff, this obdurate material, and make it diaphanous and ethereal. And I've played with that, and I'm utilizing crazy veined, a lot of Mexican onyx that I get not from Italy, from the deserts of Baja California. It looks wounded, it looks bloody, looks like it's been attacked, and then play up that with what I'm making out of the sculpture. So yeah, it's an all-encompassing material plus form adventure I'm on.
So what I'm hearing is that you make very conscious decisions about matching stones to perhaps the emotion or what you're trying to communicate with a piece. For example, Bartholomew in the rouge-du-roi marble seems like a perfect complement, right? Or the Iranian translucent onyx with purity, the ability to actually have that translucence. I've heard you say that the Mexican onyx is your favorite. What about it excites you the most?
First of all, I should say that I am super impressed that you have done your research and know all these pieces and the stones I've used for them. This is not normal, and I'm honored that you did this. Yeah, you're exactly right. The St. Bartholomew, I wanted to look like USDA prime beefsteak, well marbled, meaty and bloody. Yeah, and the translucent for a translucent veil. Yes, the Mexican onyx is a bit of a crapshoot. We now scan all the blocks that we utilize and are able to move the figure around inside of it and position it to the best of our ability with what's going on with veins and features of the stone. But there's still a random kind of acceptance that you have to have. I mean, you're going to utilize that stone. You have to be prepared to accept what it gives you. And I think a good example is I did Mexican onyx scholars rocks out of the Chinese tradition, which is basically I view as almost a precursor of Duchamp, who was, by the way, my favorite artist in college. I loved the radicality of everything about it, the conceptual strangeness. I mean, to me, I never went to a museum as a kid. You got this guy who's been to the museum and out the other side doing crazy stuff. But, a ready-made is about decontextualizing and recontextualizing. You put a bottle rack or a urinal or a snow shovel in the new context. You don't do anything to it. You present it. You maybe change how it lays or something, and that's it. It's, art is in the head, not the hand. And the Chinese had actually been doing that for thousands of years in a pure act of connoisseurship, grabbing a rock out of nature and just presenting it on a wooden stand, almost like God's a better sculptor than we could ever be. And
sure,
but so I started that to me fit exactly like what I was saying earlier. These guys are kind of thinking about utilizing natural forms at a basic level, and I'm utilizing these very assertive stones, which are not neutral carriers of form and content. They add something to it, and I've got to have kind of a reason why I'm doing it. So to me, scholars rocks were like natural ready-mades. And the strange thing was that then the Chinese, if there was a good one, then they started copying them. Or they almost had like an Olympic scoring system. This one's got a 9 for perforation, and this one's got an 8 for color.
Right.
And they would become renowned scholars rocks that would become archetypes that other people would copy, or they'd kind of modify it if there were some imperfect parts of the natural stone. And to me, all that stuff is interesting. It's just part of recognizing what you're utilizing, not just accepting it as a carrier of information. I think I said that's why I don't like bronze. It's inert to me. It doesn't bring much to it besides the tradition of bronze. And I've done a couple sculptures out of white marble, and I have to say that they've been fun, and I like the results, but they don't